Hello, all you folks out there in YouTube land. You know, I'm beginning to see why it is Tabitha has a problem with certain people, and the shit that went down this evening on Twitter was just mind-blowing. I've seen some low stunts pulled, but this one takes the fucking cake, eats all the pie, and sits down to shit all over everyone. Yes, everyone. We are all being taken for a very expensive ride by Anita and her little friend Jonathan, and it must stop. For too long, they have been allowed, nay encouraged to operate their little scam with impunity. No more. You want to talk about toxic culture, you misanthropic bitch. You and your trust fund baby boyfriend, the one that does all your writing. Okay, let's talk. Before I begin, I want it made clear that I will not be monetizing this video in any way, shape, or form. I will not be turning on ads, and it will be left off the Patreon feed. None of the social media links will appear in the description. They appear on the other videos, or at least most. If Kage puts them there, I will vigorously apply the clue bat. First, some background. As some of you may know, there was a school shooting in Marysville, Washington on the morning of October the 24th, 2014. It started at 21 minutes to 11, and was mostly thwarted by one of the people behind the counter in the cafeteria. 4 people were injured, and 2 are dead. The 14-year-old gunman, who shot himself with his own weapon whilst struggling with the cafeteria worker over it, and a girl that happened to be present. There are a number of conflicting stories about his motivations, but it is known that he was distraught after a breakup, and that he had been the subject of bullying prior to the incident. He had been suspended the week before for an altercation, but it appears that the final straw was the breakup. The girl that died is not the girl in question, nor are any of his other victims. One of those victims is a male cousin, in fact. Now Marysville and that school are a short distance from here, and I was upset to find out that it happened. Not angry, not scared, but I hoped that the damage had been minimal, and I gave a hopeful thought for the families of the people that were transgressed by this incident. I considered taking to Twitter briefly to ask for a moment of silence, and decided against. I know that my online activity is watched by more than a handful of people, and while most of you are really lovely, others may not be. I had considered the idea that Anita might use this incident to push her message, but I thought it unlikely. It's been my considered opinion over the last few years that, misguided or not, she was still in possession of her soul, and might at least try to sympathize. I admit it, I was wrong. I was so utterly wrong, that I made it into a place where the word almost doesn't apply. Not only did Anita push her agenda, she put out a set of tweets so vile, so full of hate that I don't want to show them to you. I certainly don't want to read them aloud, lest the sickness that prompted its writing spread any further. Unfortunately, they are exhibits 1 and 2 on this little parade, and so I must at least show them to you. What I will not do is link them below. The last thing she needs is hate traffic. Note here in between the first 2 tweets, she pitches a book. This book has this blurb on the back of her gushing about how this book never leaves her side, intellectually speaking. It's not a coincidence that the author is a man, after what you said about toxic masculinity, is it, Anita? It begs the question of what you were intending with this. Helping a friend with a signal boost, and maybe getting an invitation to help him with the 4th edition, perhaps, or getting a few extra quid. or maybe just trying to turbocharge your narrative. That would be the most profitable thing for you. But the invitation to help him would add to your academic credibility. Except that as far as I know, you don't have any beyond feminist circles. You've crossed the line from cultural critique to straight-out hate speech. Your naked misanthropy is so thick I'm going to need a plasma torch to cut it. You want them to be different in some way. Stop seeing them as disposable. Stop shaming them, declaring them guilty of all the world's ills, for the heinous crime of being born male. Stop making yourself out as the hero wading in with your magic sword and stolen leather armor. How about some time around some real heroes? Join the military and see what it's like to be one more face in a crowd, trained and prepared to die to defend your right to say shit like that. Be part of the disposable crowd, and see what it's like. That's what life is like for every man everywhere. If a man dies violently, he may get a mention on the local news. If a woman dies, it's international fucking news. If it's you, then an email suggesting that violence might take place in your vicinity makes front page news on every wire service that exists, and several more that don't. Because you speak for all women, right? No, you don't. You don't speak for me, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let you make this about your narrative. You heard about it on the evening news, and decided to make it about women. I got a phone call from a friend, and I asked if everyone was alright. You complain that you're the victim of nasty, cruel, vicious men. How about a boy of just 2 months old, and another one that's now 4 years old? The narrative you're pushing says that they are vile beasts, raping and pillaging the landscape, and causing suffering in every woman everywhere. Believe me, the worst suffering going on in that household is Kage's wife having to wake up every 2 or 3 hours to feed the littlest one. You and yours want to end misogyny by demanding that we see to the safety of girls. What the fuck do you think we train men to do? We train them from day one that they shouldn't hit girls, should respect them, and that they should come to the rescue if one is injured in some way. You make your fucking living on that part of our social makeup, and then you shame and demoise them for it. Who the fuck are you? You hurt women everywhere when you started the victim routine. You degrade men with alarming regularity, almost to the degree that we can set a fucking clock by you. You wait for exactly the right moment to release your videos so they creates the largest shitstorm. You use a school shooting to sell a book for a friend. You know what? Maybe I should have taken to Twitter this morning just to ask for a moment of silence for those that were really victims of that incident. I should have expected you to pull a stunt like this, and said something appropriate at the time it happened. My mistake, having faith in the basic humanity of some people. Also, before you take this video and demand it be considered as part of the Gamergate hate, think again. This particular bottle of despise comes directly from me to you. I don't judge groups as a whole, but individuals within a group. You, Anita, I truly detest. This is my opinion of you, and mine alone. Others can agree with me or not, but I don't speak for them any more than you speak for me. I deny you, Anita. You cannot be real. No person should be this full of hate and spite. I pity you. You and your mountain of hate and bigotry. It must be horrible living in your world. In the world you're creating, everyone is terrified of you, and what you're going to say next. Wondering whether or not it's going to bring the slavering hordes down on our heads. You stay there in your little cauldron of hate for anyone that doesn't agree with you. I'll just live in the real world, where anger, hate and bigotry live in balance with people full of love and life and happiness. Maybe you should try it.